Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Biggie, Skinny, and Messaround show. How are you doing tonight? I am Skinny. Let me go ahead and introduce to you that man that we call Biggie. Biggie, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I'm still under my other moniker, I see. Whoops.
Right, yeah, I got to change mine too. I realize that my moniker is still Ace, but you know what? That's okay.
I gotta say though, the moniker of Biggie, like I'm probably 20 pounds lighter than I was when I came up with that. So that's pretty impressive though.
I'm probably about 50 pounds heavier. So,
oh God, that's funny.
The weight you lost, I gained. So, there you go.
And I've probably been consistent throughout the years. I'm the same. I never go up or down. I'm just fat.
Yeah, you're still there.
Yeah.
I like how Dave's like, "Yep, I got to wear these sunglasses when it's dark outside."
I wear my sunglasses at night so I can.
Right, it's awesome. All right. Well, anyways,
We're gonna
get. So hold on, real quick. I gotta say, speaking of fat, as Messaround pointed out, have you guys ever watched that Zach Galifianakis YouTube show, Between the Ferns?
Yeah.
Between Two Ferns. I loved his one where he's talking like to Steve Carell and talking about Steve Carell's big ass nose.
I don't think I've seen that one.
And he's like, and Steve Carell's like, "F you, fatso," and he's like, "I'm not that fat." And then he goes to sit on the chair and it breaks and he falls backwards. It was pretty funny.
I don't think I've seen that. I think I'll definitely have to check that one out.
I've had people say that I look like Zach Galifianakis or how you say his name. I'm like, whatever, get out of here.
All right, so how about we start out here with a little bit of sports talk. So the first thing I want to do is like bring up, that little bit of MLB because it pops into my head here that the league average right now in MLB with people batting is roughly around like 245, 250. It's way below league average.
Bad.
So like right now, do you guys feel like spring training put a huge dent in what people can hit right now? But I do want to bring up this though. I do want to say this because everybody knows that my favorite team's the Braves. Biggie's favorite team is the Braves. Messaround, everybody knows you like the White Sox. This is the thing that bugs me. When I'm watching a Braves game and, we have runners on first and second with 0 out. I'm sitting there going, okay, you're down by a run. All you have to do is drop the bunt down, sacrifice the runner to second, third. There's no outs. And then what do they do? The announcers go, yep, a nice 3-run homer right now would be great. And then the guy strikes out. I'm like, dude, what the hell? I was like, if I was a manager, I would be like, drop that shit down. Drop that bunt down. You're going to sacrifice the run to second, third. At least we have a chance of scoring a run. Like, I don't know. It's all about the long ball now. But anyway, going back to that, J-Mac, you're shaking your head saying no, that spring training has nothing to do with the league average now.
I don't think it does. I think you already hit the nail on the head. It's guys just trying to hit home runs. We either hit home runs or we strike out.
I mean, it is.
I mean, you don't have guys like Tony Gwynn who hit for 330 lifetime average or whatever, and they go for the base hit and try to knock a guy in instead of plating everybody at one time.
It's hard to imagine, but honestly, Miguel Cabrera could possibly be the last time we ever see a 3,000 hit person in Major League Baseball. The next closest guy was Robinson Cano. He had 2,740 hits, and he got designated for assignment.
I think though, I was borderline possibly Mike Trout. I was borderline that.
I mean,
But
he'd have to stay on and have a good career and not get hurt every year and miss games. I agree
right.
with that. Robinson Cano is 260 hits away, so even if someone picks him up, he's 39 years old. He's not going to play every day anymore. What, 50 hits a year? He'd still have to play 5 more years or so between 50 and 100 hits. I mean,
Yeah.
Miguel Cabrera could be the last one we ever see at 3,000 hits, and that's crazy to think about. It really
Yeah,
is.
it's just not going to happen anymore because it's not the same fundamental games that we used to see to where you drop a bunt down, you do a suicide squeeze. You don't see those anymore. They were even saying now there's probably about 35% of the guys in the league now that actually know how to bunt. About 35% that if they're asked to lay a bunt down, they could do it properly because they all don't know how to do it. So
Well, honestly, that's what you're going to have to do to beat the shift. Think about it every time a left-hander's up. If they pull every guy up between first and second, if you just laid a bunt down the third baseline, you'd have a double.
right, yeah.
It's crazy to think why don't these players do that? Like,
because of how the game's changed. It's all about, let's get a bloop and a blast. And I'm like, why? Why do you have to get a bloop and a blast? You don't need a bloop and a blast.
the way a small ball is dead, it died years ago.
It is.
Last time we saw it was the 05 White Sox played good small ball.
Actually, the last small ball we saw, remember, I think it was like 15-16, the Kansas City Royals, when they won the World Series.
Yeah.
The World Series year, they played a lot of small ball. They did not have a lot of home run hitters.
Yeah.
They played a lot of small ball. And that was impressive. And that still shows if you play small ball, you can still win championships. And the Royals did it, and then they dismantled the whole team. But Messaround, would you agree that kind of like what myself and Biggie are saying, that the reason that the average is so low is technically not spring training? It's because of the not playing small ball anymore. It's all about the home run now.
I think it's something else completely different. I think it's just the weather. Once the weather gets nicer and warmer, the balls start going down the yard more. They start getting hitting better. I think once the weather warms up, we'll start seeing the hitting pick up.
Could be.
Good. Maybe.
Although, thank God they don't have a team here in Oregon, because every freaking game would get postponed because it's friggin' May 5th and it's still raining half an inch.
No, it's raining.
It would have to be in a dome. And
no, you'd have to play in a dome.
Mm-hmm. And Brandon's saying, or we will not see a 300 game winner again.
We won't see it. We won't see a 200 game winner. I don't believe.
No, I don't think so. The pitchers don't pitch as long in games now. They don't.
Speaking of pitchers, how impressed were you guys with Ohtani the other night in Boston? 7 innings, 11 strikeouts.
But
that was pretty impressive.
And then he went 2 for 4 with an RBI.
Yeah,
as the DH. Those are the kind of players that I wish would come back in Major League Baseball. A guy who can pitch and then hit DH on the other side, like guys who can do both.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't see that anymore. Those times have come and gone. And it's sad. It really is sad, because that to me is what I feel like is kind of killing the sport of baseball in a way.
Do you guys miss the pitchers hitting in the NL?
No,
I do.
I don't.
I do.
Yeah.
I think there's more strategy to the game. I think you have to do a double switch at times. You have to decide where you want them to hit when they come in. I think that I definitely miss it. I think it gives more strategy to the game for sure.
I'm just seeing guys like Bartolo Colon hit one out, or Mad Bomb hitting one out.
It's just funny how they said the entire career for Colon, they're like, he's so big that if he got everything behind it and connected with the ball, he would hit one out, and then he did it.
Yeah,
Nice.
And it wasn't until he was like 44, 45 or something when he finally was able to hit one out.
Yeah.
So and so Brandon's saying I might see my weight hit 300 before we see a 300 game winner.
No, I mean wins don't mean what they used to. That's the key to it. They don't mean what they used to. It used to be big for guys used to lead the league winning 20 and 22 games a year. You don't see that anymore.
You get lucky if you get a 15, 17 game winner.
Yeah.
Welcome in, William Hudson. So, William, this is the Biggie, Skinny, and Messaround show. This is all sports. We talk all sports on the show. That's all we do. Just sports.
This is actually the first show that we ever did together, like 8 years ago or something like that on YouTube.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh yeah, it's been what? Yeah,
I think our kids were 2 or 3.
Right.
Now they're all 11.
They're all. Yeah, it's been. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Was it? Yeah, it was that long ago, huh?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So we can kind of pull a little bit away from, well, unless you want to talk a little bit of MLB still, but we kind of hit a little bit on
the only other thing I want to point out is that the Reds are on pace to go 22 and 140.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They are. But
they are not good.
Okay, so let me ask
but what's amazing, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No,
but
it's fine.
The amazing part to me is they are 3 and 22 on the season. Okay? And they still draw more people to the ballpark than the Oakland A's.
I was watching highlights of the Reds the other day, and it was comedy because dude hits a foul ball. The catcher traps it on the screen, so the umpire's like, "No, you trap it." Next pitch, he hits a foul ball down the third baseline. The third baseman misses it in the dugout, and then in the very next pitch, he hits a pop up right in front of the pitcher, and they drop it, and he's saved. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
So. Yeah, so Dave, so it's funny though. Speaking of that, I don't know if you guys saw this in baseball, but this is funny, and I don't know how many of you actually knew that this was a rule, because I actually didn't know this. I actually didn't know that this was a rule. But it was going to be a wild pitch, and the ball was rolling away just a little bit. So the catcher takes off his face mask, right? Sets it down and sets it on top of the ball. He then picks up the ball and he's holding it, and then he throws it back to the pitcher, and the ump's like, timeout. Runner goes to second, runner goes to third, and everyone's like, what the, what just happened? And the manager is sitting there going, what the heck? How are the runners getting a free base? And the catcher's like, what I do? What the heck just happened? Well, apparently it's Article, I don't know, Section 301, Article 5A3 or something like that it pulls up. Barely any catchers in the league knew this rule because they started debating it afterwards, and 75% of the catchers were like, I didn't know that rule, and majority of the managers didn't know the rule. But apparently the rule states that any fielder on the field at no point can take off their hat, their face mask, anything, and use it to block the ball. If you do, the runners on base get an automatic free base. They get a free advance on the base. And so when the catcher took off his face mask, the runners got to move up.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Hey, you know what else you can't do and is really frowned upon?
What's that?
When the ball's hit 15 feet over your head and you take your glove off and throw it as high as you can to try to catch it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, somebody actually do that?
No, but we do in slow pitch softball all the time, and the umpire doesn't like it.
Yeah, you kind of get warned for doing that. You can't do that. Yeah. But since we're on the MLB topic, I'm curious, who is your guys' surprise team? Maybe good and bad? Who's your surprise team? Biggie, I'll start with you. who's your surprise team on the good side of things?
Good side of things, the Rockies. I think the Rockies are playing way better than I thought they were going to. And the bad side of things is the Reds. I didn't think. I mean, I knew they were going to be bad, but I didn't think they were going to be 3-22.
But did you? Okay, because I was right there with you. I honestly thought the Pirates and the Orioles were going to be worse than the Reds were. I actually had the Reds finishing ahead of the Pirates. I did, because I was like, the Reds have to, because the Pirates have a bunch of nobodies too, and so you probably can't even name half the Pirates roster, maybe.
But you know it's a bad year for the Reds when 25 games into the season, they are 7.5 games behind the Pirates for 4th place in the division.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And they're like what? They're like 16 games out of 1st place or something. It's insane.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Messaround, how about you?
Good for me is probably the Twins being in 1st place right now in the division. I know it's early; they're 15-11, and the bad for me is probably the actually my good. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna go with the Diamondbacks being 500 at this point. And bad for me is my White Sox. They're not as good as everybody thought they were going to be so far. They got a lot of injuries. It's early. Hopefully they rebound. We'll see.
You know what? I could actually almost agree with you on the Diamondbacks, only because right at this point in the season, the entire NL West is 500 or better, and like I don't think anybody saw that coming at this point. So, Brandon is also saying who is the Reds All-Star, and then the other one is another unwritten rule: Sano follows, don't hit the ball too much. So that's another unwritten rule that he's talking about. For me, it's really, really close when you talk about surprise good teams, because I think when I think about it, a lot of the teams that are good right now, I kind of expected to be good, like the Blue Jays I expected to be good. But I'm kind of right there with the Minnesota Twins. You know, we kind of figured they were going to be somewhere around 5, but they're actually playing a lot better than what people originally thought, because their starting pitching is actually playing better than what they thought. And we have a fellow Twins fan, you know, on the network, and Brandon, who says that he was a little leery of the starting pitching too, and they've been a lot better. As far as bad teams, that's where it's rough, man, because the Reds, they're really bad. Nobody expected them to be that bad. The Braves, the White Sox, those are like surprising teams right now that are bad. But with the good teams right now that are playing bad, that I think are going to be good, I'm not too worried about it, because it's still early in the season. We're not even really 20% into the season yet, so I'm not too concerned yet. If they continue to lose, then I'm going to be concerned. All right.
Yeah, just when you think your team's getting healthy, they get another injury, like the White Sox. Andrew Vaughn just got placed on the injured list. So right when you think it's going to start going good, another injury happens.
Yeah. Last thing on baseball, I think, but I have a question for you guys. Seeing more of the hometown discount deals that we've seen lately, you look at like Acuna Jr., all these, they signed for less to stay in Atlanta. What's his name from the Guardians? Ramirez, I think is his last name.
Jose Ramirez.
Oh, he just took 5 years and $150 million. When he could have got over $200 million anywhere else, and he said he'd rather stay with the Guardians no matter what they can pay him. You think we'll start seeing more of that again back in the game, where they stop chasing the money and just kind of stay with their team? Especially, I'm not saying free agents, but I'm saying like homegrown talent. If you come up through the minor league system with one team.
It'd be nice if they did. I mean, like years ago, the White Sox had Chris Sale locked down at like a market value. Like he could have been making big money, and he didn't get that until he went to Boston. And I think it's kind of you know, they want the money, but at the same time, if you want your team to win, you should take a hometown discount like Tom Brady's done for years in football. That dude could have made millions, and he didn't. He chose to take less money so they can sign other players. It'd be nice if more people followed that lead, but, you know, money talks.
Money does talk. Money absolutely talks. So, all right. So, shifting away for a second here. J-Mac, I was going to bring this up to you because there's an individual that I work with that is a Washington Commander fan. In Messaround, you might know where I'm going with this because this happened during the draft. In the very first round, you were watching it with me, and
Oh my God.
And we're like, what in the hell? When the Washington Commanders had the 11th pick, now, once I saw a trade, I'm like, okay, you know, nice. They traded. That was fine. But then once we're sitting there, we hear that they got a 3rd and 4th round pick from the 11th slot. We're like, what in the hell? Just what? How did they only get a 3rd and 4th round pick from trading from number 11? That was the thing that I did not understand. I'm like, that would have been interesting to be on that phone call, to be the New Orleans Saints in that phone call, and you're making the phone call and you're like, hey, I want pick 11, and the Saints go, okay, let's swap picks, and then how about I give you a 3rd and a 4th, and the guy's like, okay, deal. I'm like, wait, what?
I made a joke about it. I was like, you know what? They probably had some dirt on Snyder. They're like, take this killer. We're going to leak this info. And Snyder's like, do it, quick, hurry, take it.
I mean, or, you know, Snyder's so stupid. He was like on the phone, and someone's like, oh, what time do you think we should make reservations for? He's like, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe 3 and 4, something like that. And they're like, oh, a 3rd and a 4th? Okay, deal. Done. Like, who the hell knows, man?
Because we did that last year. We moved up from I think it was like 19 to 20 to 11, and we gave up this in the first round the following year for Fields. And I'm like, how the hell did they not get a first round back for that?
I don't know, but you know, it's Daniel Snyder. Snyder has to be the worst owner in all of football. Man, how does this guy? It's dumb. I don't get it.
All right,
I
so
that was probably the worst move of the first round, not getting a first back for that pick. The worst move ever.
Especially sitting at number 11. You're sitting at number 11. And they wanted a receiver. And they could have had Olave. They could have had Olave. And they go, no, we're going to trade this. And then later on it comes out that Washington was like, well, we really wanted Olave, but we didn't know that the Saints. I'm like, what do you think the Saints were going to do? They were trading up to get a receiver. Like, if you wanted Olave that bad, why didn't you stick with your pick? It wasn't going to fall to you. Olave wasn't going to fall there. I'm like, that's crazy. So speaking of the draft, then Messaround, I'll go with you. Who would you say had the best draft, and who had the worst draft?
The best draft for me, I think the Steelers had a really, really good draft. They got the hometown kid in Pickett. They drafted a receiver. They just made all the right moves, and I thought Pickett was probably the best pick of the draft in the first round. He got to play college ball in Pittsburgh. He gets to continue playing pro ball in Pittsburgh. The worst draft for me, God, I got to say the Commanders for not getting that first round pick back.
Wow. It's kind of interesting when you say that as far as picks, because we talked about this on night one when they picked Pickett, and we're like, did the Steelers really have a choice to pick any other quarterback but Pickett? Because if they would have picked anybody else, like, people would have been very upset. And
if they didn't pick the hometown kid,
everything. So you know that everyone would have been like, you better go with Pickett. You better go with Pickett, or they're going to be coming at the Steelers with torches and being like, fire them because we wanted Kenny Pickett.
They would have taken anybody else. That GM would have they would have been calling for his head.
Oh, absolutely. They had to take Kenny Pickett. They didn't have a choice. All right. So Biggie, how about you? Who won the draft and who lost?
Who won the draft? Actually, it sounds funny, but I think that the Jets did a really good job in the draft.
Yeah,
I think
they did.
the Jets had a great draft.
So did the Giants too.
Yeah, and who lost the draft? Sorry, Brandon. The Vikings.
Well, you know what? Vikings for me was definitely down there, but I'll tell you, there's one team that I'm telling you, like it was blown up on social media. A lot of their fans were like, "What in the hell just happened?" But I'll go with the winning part of the draft. The Jets was definitely up there because they had like 4 picks in like the top 40, and when they did that, they made some great picks. I mean, they were really smart with their picks. But the team that I'm talking about that potentially lost the draft was the New England Patriots. Like, the first pick that they had, the dude was slated as like a 4th rounder, and everyone was like, "What in the?" They're like, "What kind of first round pick?" And like Patriots fans were like, "Are you kidding me? You got a guy that was slated as like a 4th round pick, and you pick him in the 1st?" And then they traded, and then once they traded, it's like, okay, now you chose a guy. You got a guy in the 2nd round that was slated to be in the 3rd round, and there was so many upset people, Patriots fans, that were like, "What the hell is going on?" Now, we have a comment here from Nate where Nate's saying Titans lost the draft.
Oh, okay. Jesus Christ! This is why we should never ever talk about any comments that Nate makes on any show.
but did you guys see the comment that Tannehill made? Speaking of the Titans,
yeah.
What did he say? I didn't see it.
So, he's not wrong.
Yeah. So after they drafted Willis, Ryan Tannehill, when they asked him about his relationship with Willis, Tannehill's like, "It's not my job to mentor Willis. It's my job to come out and win games. It's not my job. Willis wants to learn. He has coaches. I'm not doing it." And I'm like, wow.
He's not the first starting quarterback to say that, and he won't be the last to say it. I mean, like Brett Favre said it years ago about Rodgers. Rodgers said it about Love. You know, it's really not their job to mentor. Their job is to go out and win games.
It is, but
Messaround's exactly right. It's not their job. Where in their contract does it say you have to mentor the guy that? By the way, here's this guy we drafted that we plan on taking over for you someday, and we expect you to teach him how to take over your job.
It's not their job at all. That's why you have quarterback coaches, and the offensive coordinator. That's their job to get the guy ready. It's not the starting quarterback's job to help the guy take his spot.
Exactly, right. And Brett Favre clarified that when they asked him, and they said, "Can you clarify?" And Favre's like, all I simply said when Rodgers was drafted, he said, "It's not my job to mentor him because I'm the starting quarterback on this team. My contract states that I need to win us games. So I can't have my focus on mentoring a guy behind me when I have to focus on winning football games." And so he's like, I told Aaron, he's like, if he wants to learn, he can watch me on the field and learn from me on the field. That's how he's going to learn. Is it wrong to say that? No, I don't think it's wrong. I think a quarterback has the right to say that, because where in his contract does it state he has to mentor anybody who comes in?
Well, and the other part of that is they take it at face value for what he said. So if you look more into what Tannehill said, he didn't say, "I'm not going to be nice to the guy. I'm not going to take him under my wing." It's the same with Rodgers and Favre and all of them in the past. They basically said, if I'm in watching film and you want to come watch film with me and ask my opinion on what I see in the film, I'll tell you. We can sit and watch film together and I'll tell you what I see and what to look for and all of this. But it's not my job to teach you how to take over my position. Like that's a completely different situation.
Well, right, because basically what they're saying is they're trying to say if we're in the middle of practice and I'm trying to run practice and I'm running plays in practice, you shouldn't come up to me when I'm about to run a play and say, hold up, what's the formation here? What are you doing? He's like, that's not my job. You have the coaches for that. You go talk to them about the formations that we're running and where guys are lining up. You want to learn? That's why they're there.
Sometimes you learn on the fly, by the way.
You do.
And I've probably told this story before, but the greatest Brett Favre story I ever heard was when he was talking about how he was like his third or fourth year in the league. He'd already been starting for 2 or 3 years for Green Bay.
And the nickel. Yeah.
And the nickel. And he just asked his backup quarterback, Ty Detmer, what are they talking about? And they're like, oh, it's when they take a linebacker off the field and put a DB in. He's like, that's it? That's it. Who the hell cares?
Right. I love that story every time. It's great.
Exactly. It's true. It's true, though. I mean, it's true, but those are like little stories that you hear along the way. And so it's like, so there's been multiple debates on how people feel about it, on whether, because there's some people that will tell you they feel like the starting quarterback should mentor. And I'm like, why? Why should they have to?
You don't put me in on that because I don't feel that way at all. If you want to get better, stay after practice, come early, watch film, I know. Whatever.
It would be like this. It would be like me having the position I'm in at work, and then somebody else getting hired, and work comes in and goes, hey, we're bringing this person in as your eventual replacement. It is your job to train them. I'd be like, the hell? They're replacing me? Why the hell am I going to train them? They want to learn? They're going to freaking learn.
Completely agree with that.
They're taking my spot.
I completely agree. They'll bring new assistants in the store, and yes, it's my job to train them, but not train them how to take over my job. It's my job to train them how to do the job, not to take over. Like that's just
exactly.
That's stupid.
But it's always been kind of, one of those little debates back and forth. But it shouldn't be a debate.
Well, that's probably all those. It's probably all the. Well,
the one guy that I gave a lot of credit to, and you can agree with me on this or not, was when Ryan Fitzpatrick was in Miami, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was winning games for Miami, and the coach kept saying, "You're our guy," and then Fitzpatrick is like, the next thing I know, I'm getting benched, and Tua is going in, and they're asking me to mentor Tua and explain to him what's going on. And Fitzpatrick is like, I was pissed. I was hurt. I was pissed, but I sucked it up and I did my job. And I talked him through it. He's like, I felt hurt because I was basically lied to. They told me I'm the guy, and then my ass gets benched, and they bring in a rookie who oftentimes, which he said after that season, he's like, there was no way I was going back to Miami, because there was oftentimes that season to where they're telling me I have to train this guy. I get pulled out, yet I had to go in and save him in 4 to 5 different games because he struggled so bad that they had to bring him back in. And he's like, why do I want to be a part of that?
Why would you? I mean, he was winning. It's still unbelievable to me. If they had left him in, they might have made the playoffs that year, but
I think they would have. They would have. Because when Fitzpatrick was starting, I think they were 4-1 at that point. They were 4-1 when Fitzpatrick was playing. And then they pull him because Tua was drafted in the first round, and they felt like Tua needed to play. And I'm like, why? That's dumb. You're winning games.
And they're still going through it. God knows why. That guy is so terrible.
Well, yeah. Even Tyreek Hill talked about that when he got to Miami. They're like, what's it like being in Miami? He's like, well, going from Patrick Mahomes to Tua is kind of like going from a Porsche 911 to a Toyota Corolla.
Right. I like that meme that's like Tyreek Hill's open 60 yards downfield, but Tua can't get him the ball.
Right.
So I don't know if you saw. It was this Lions fan he came across and he posted and he said, "Hey, if I'm the Lions right now, I'm calling the Rams, and this is what I'm saying." He's like, I'm calling the Rams and I'm saying, "Hey, we traded you Stafford last year. We would like him back, and we'll give you Goff and Jameis Williams, who we drafted in the first round. We'll give you a first round pick, and we'll give you Swift." And the guy's like, "I guarantee the Rams taking him." Like, what the hell they do? They're not taking that.
Only on Madden. Maybe on the game.
Yeah, maybe on Madden. That might happen for a trade, but there's no way. The Rams, could you even... Detroit makes that call, and they offer all that, and then they're like, hello?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know if the conversation would get that far.
I don't even think the Rams pick up the phone. They see a Detroit area code number. They're like, nope.
right, because it would be like calling and then them picking up, being like, "Hey, this is the Lions. I want to talk about Stafford," and the Rams would be like, "Click." It's like, yep. I'm not listening to it. And so it's, yeah. When I saw that, I'm like, what kind of ridiculous crap is this? Because there's no way the Rams in a million years would take that trade. They got rid of Goff. They don't want the guy back.
And I thought Isaiah had some really wild takes. That is wild for sure.
That is definitely.
Are we sure Isaiah didn't say that one? Because that would be something he would say.
Right? So I was thinking about this because they were talking about if you had an option. So if you had an option and you were an NFL team, and you were calling around and you were trying to get any quarterback you could, but your two options on the board at the end of the day, or let's say you had three options. Your three options at the end of the day. Number one was Baker, number two was Tua, and number three was Darnold. Which guy you pulling the trigger on?
And I have to make a choice.
And you had to, like, if they said, okay, you're starting your franchise, and these are your three options. These are your three options at quarterback. Which quarterback you taking?
I'm going to go Mayfield because when the guy's healthy, he's okay. He's better than the other two for sure. So I'm going to go with Baker. I mean, neither option's great, but if you have the gun to my head, I'm taking Baker.
Biggie?
I tend to agree only because how did Baker win in Cleveland when they went to the playoffs? For the run game and defense. So I know that if I have to take one of those three guys, I'm going to take Baker, who is the best of the three, which still isn't great. But at least he's the best of the three, and I can just have a strong run game and a strong defense, and I can actually win some football games. So, yeah.
I mean, at least Baker can throw 60 yards down the field.
Yeah, I'm not taking Darnold. I don't want someone out there seeing ghosts. And then Tua, yeah, I don't want a guy that has to throw the slant pattern every single play because he can't throw the ball further than 12 yards.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't let certain people hear that you wouldn't take Tua, the old Alabama quarterback, because there's certain people that would roast you. Well, not really roast you, but would be like, you don't understand. He's an Alabama quarterback, so you gotta.
You don't understand. He's an Alabama quarterback. You tell me the last Alabama quarterback that did diddly poo in the NFL.
Yeah,
exactly. So, and this was an interesting thing on draft day though too, when you think about it. So you have also going to the Titans though too. You can look at the Titans and be like, well, the Titans let Julio walk because they're like, okay, we have AJ Brown.
Oh my goodness.
Then they trade AJ Brown and you're like, what the hell just happened? They let Julio walk, but they wanted Brown, and then they trade him. And I'm like, what is Tennessee doing? I don't get it.
I think a lot of it, it's a money factor again. They're a small market team. They don't want to pay the big money for Brown, and he went and got it from Philly. So,
So this is where now, since AJ Brown went to Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts can't have any excuses anymore.
There's another Alabama quarterback that's trash.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, he can't have any excuses anymore.
No, he
Because
really can't. He's got the what is it, Waddle? Or
no, he doesn't have Waddle.
Waddle's in Miami, that's right.
He has Smith, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Devontae Smith. He got the other
Yeah.
Bama receiver.
Yeah, he's got Smith, and now he has AJ Brown, and don't forget he's got Goddard. So so you don't have any excuses anymore. And so if you're not winning, it's a problem. And Jalen Hurts could be the problem.
Okay, here's another one for you. If you had to take one of these quarterbacks, Jackson, Tua, or Hurts, who are you taking?
We're talking about Lamar Jackson, correct?
Yeah.
I'm taking Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar.
It's
and
not even
don't,
close.
I don't even think it's close.
And no, it's not. It's not even close.
The only reason I take Lamar is because he could run. He can't throw the football for shit. So
No, but at least Lamar Jackson is gonna. I would feel more confident in Lamar Jackson winning me a game than I would with Tua or Jalen Hurts.
yeah, for sure.
I believe that Lamar Jackson has a lot more upside. But what I think is also funny though about that though too is that when you think about it, is his tweet on draft day after they traded Brown.
Oh yeah, he's like, what the?
And he goes out there and he's like, WTF on his Twitter. He's like, what? You traded my number one guy.
Yeah. That was great.
What just happened?
I think they're gonna be even more of a running team now.
I think they are. Yeah, they're definitely gonna be more of a running team because now that they got rid of their number one guy, now they really only have Jackson.
So I wasn't there for night 2 at your house, but when the Packers traded up and took Watson, how excited were you?
Actually, I was actually very excited about it. Now, originally on night 1, I was kind of upset at first, but then once I went back and I watched film and I understood why they did it, then I'm like, hey, I'm okay with it because they were trying to build a defense. So those were brilliant picks because defense wins championships. That's what you need. And so those were definitely picks of needs. Once I heard that they traded up, and of all teams, they traded Minnesota, which is really a team in their division allowed them to trade up to get their receiver, which I'm like, that's weird. Like once they traded up, I'm like, they're probably going after Watson, and I was like, but don't screw this up, Goody. I'm sitting there going, do not screw this up. I know what you're doing. You're going for a receiver. Do not pick some stupid name that people are not going to be expecting you to do. Go get Watson. And then once they did it, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now we have Watson. Now I'm cool about it. But this is what shocked me. As I'm watching the draft, and I know you being a Bears fan, as I'm watching the draft and I'm watching your like next 2 picks, I'm like, I was like, they're not picking. I'm like, what? I was like, Chicago's not picking receivers. I'm like, what are they doing? I was like, this is so weird.
It was weird. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of okay with the draft because they did a lot with what they had. They only had 5 picks entering the draft. They ended up with 11. They did the smart thing and traded down a bunch. The 2 DBs they drafted, we needed them. They got a lot of O-line help, which we need. I'm not saying any of the guys we picked are going to pan out because, you know, draft is a crapshoot. You only get a couple good guys every few years. So, but the guy that they drafted receiver was like a real shock because he's old for a rookie. He's going to be 25. And he was primarily used on special teams as a kick returner. He only had 1 year as a starter. But his pro comp is Deebo Samuel. They say he's a Deebo Samuel type guy. We'll see. He's quick. He runs a 4.3 40. So They got the speed they needed.
Messaround,
But it wasn't the receiver I thought they were going to take.
Messaround, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We were talking about Green Bay and if we were happy about the picks they took. I'm happy. You know why?
Why's that?
Because if all three of these picks pan out and Green Bay has a good defense and a solid receiving core, what excuse are we going to have this year if Rodgers chokes in the playoffs?
You're not.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm not. It just like that will be it because that's always it was a bad defense. Whatever, didn't have weapons. Well, if everything pans out, I mean, what excuse do you have now?
Well, I was talking to Ace about this on draft night. I said that I think Green Bay is going to become more of a running team. They got the 1-2 punch with Dillon and Jones, so I think they're going to lean more on the run. They're going to be more of a running team and use Rodgers when you need to or have to.
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you that. I'm telling you, last year in the playoffs, what shifted the momentum was when A.J. Dillon got hurt. That shifted the momentum because it took the running game right out of it. Yeah, we had Aaron Jones, but you did not have that bruiser and A.J. Dillon.
I think we talked about this. I told you if Dillon played that whole game, I think you guys would have beat the Niners. I agree with that.
Because A.J. Dillon gets hurt and it shifts everything. It shifted the whole momentum of the game. And then, of course, you have your stupid special teams, which I'm glad that we actually have Biasca now that I think can actually fix the special teams.
I know. Yeah, I gotta cite. The only thing I have to say on that is I hear all these Packers fans on all these groups and stuff, and they're like, well, "Why do we get Biasca? It's not like he's the best in the league." And then they put a comparison of all of his years as the Raiders special teams. He's in the top 12 every year. And then they put Green Bay for the last 9 years. It was 31, 32, 29, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27. Like, what would you rather have? Would you rather have that or would you rather be in the top 12? I mean.
Right? I'm like. And a lot of players are talking highly about him. A lot of players are saying, his special teams are always like really, really good. And his philosophy was great because when he came out and talked and like, what's your philosophy on special teams? It's like when you're running special teams, you have one play. He's like, when you're on offense or defense, yeah, you have 3 or 4 plays. On special teams, you have one.
So
your mindset going in is you have one play and you can't screw up that one play. So you have to go in focusing one play is what you get. You don't get the 4 like you would on offense or defense.
I think that's where that line comes from. You had one job. When the kicker misses a field goal, you had one job.
Well, technically you do.
Right.
But now here's a question about kickers. Do you think that kickers, get blamed too much when it could potentially be the holder's fault or the snapper's fault? Because they do have to hold the ball a certain way. The ball has to be snapped. Like everything has to be perfect.
I don't know. Cody Parkey, anybody? Come on. Double doink.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think in a season, if a kicker misses 10 kicks, you might be able to blame 1 or 2 of those on the snapper or the holder. But I think the other 8 or 9 of those is on the kicker himself.
I agree.
And I'm not disagreeing with that, but how they talk about like laces out and then you watch the replay and the laces are like in and the kicker's like kicking and they go, oh, the kicker missed. I'm like, well, whatever happened to the term laces out? So are you blaming the kicker? Are you blaming the holder? Or exactly what are you doing? And so I don't want to say that kickers are a dime a dozen because they're not. Kickers are not a dime a dozen. You don't always have the most accurate kicker. Now, I know Rex Ryan said it best once, going back to that whole Cody Parkey thing on the double doink. Now he said it best after that when they asked him and said, yeah, when Chicago fans were pissed off and they were wanting to kill him and saying you know trade him and stuff.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, they're like Rex Ryan. Did you feel bad for this kicker? And he's like, no. He's like, the kicker has one job. You go out there and miss the kick. I don't feel bad for you whatsoever. You had one freaking job to make the kick, and you did a double doink. So no, I don't feel bad for him.
Nope, I didn't either. I mean, but at the same time, you know, watching that game, yeah, he missed the kick, but they had so many opportunities to put more points on the board and they didn't. So at the same time, he did miss the kick, but the offense did play that well that day. They did score more than the other team. That's what it comes down to.
It rarely comes down to that play that they lost the game in.
It usually does. Yeah,
that's usually where everyone is. Maybe they misconstrue that or put it in the wrong area. The kicker missed, but he's not the reason they lost the game.
No, and it's
you go back and watch the game. Cody Parkney scored most of the points for the Bears that day. He made 2 other field goals that day.
But yeah, and it's also if the play comes down to like, let's say you're on your final drive or whatever, and you know the ref misses a call, and then the fans are like, oh, we got screwed. You know the ref in that game just screwed us, and I'm like, what happened to the rest of the game? You know,
right?
Why didn't you score in the rest of? Why did your team put the game in the hands of the officials? The game should have went completely. You guys should have scored more.
I can't remember who it was we played last year, but there was a point where we went like 0 for 5 in the red zone and lost the game. And everybody's like, we lost the game because we didn't get that call. I'm like, really? You sure it's not because we went 0 for 5 in the red zone?
Right.
Exactly.
And not to switch it back to baseball, but it's the same in baseball when guys are like, oh, that was safe when he was out, or he's calling strikes that are balls. Okay, is that the reason they really lost, or did they lose because they went 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position? Like, what really cost them that game?
Yeah.
It's like people have more excuses than anything than just to come out and say, man, my team laid a dud. They played bad today. They came out flat. They weren't scoring points. They were dropping passes. They were fumbling the ball.
That's not it. It was because we didn't get that pass interference call on 3rd and 2. It would have put us at the 1 yard line.
Right.
That's why we lost.
Yeah. Oh man, we lost this game by 21 points. But if we would have got that one call, we would have won. I'm like, you lost by 21 points. One call is going to change 21 points off the board. I don't think so. So at some point, you have to, like, people have to man up and stop blaming officials and realize, no, you got to play better. You have to play better. Don't put the game in the hands of the officials. That's how I say it. Because I used to be that same way. Like, for the longest time, I used to be so pissed off at referees, too. But then once I started refereeing, I'm like, oh, shit. It's like, I know what to go
to. It changes your whole perspective.
It does. It changes the whole perspective that at that point, you're like, oh, damn, I officiate now. And I know the shit ain't easy. So I'm not blaming the officials anymore. I'm not blaming them anymore.
I saw this cartoon once where they got an umpire behind the plate at a baseball game, and he goes, "Oh wait, stop second. You know what, guy in the second row, third section, second row. You're right. I'm sorry. That was a strike, not a ball. My bad."
I've been an umpire official for little leagues. It's not easy. Like, I was behind home plate trying to keep track of balls and strikes. And somewhere along the way, I lost count, and I accidentally called strike 3, and it should have been ball 4. So
yeah, it happens, man.
It does. It freaking happens. And so, but, you know, so officials get blamed, kickers get blamed, but I think the person that takes the number one blame of it all is the coaches. The head coaches are usually the cop-out. Like, it's an absolute cop-out. Now, yes, I understand, maybe some of the play calling sometimes is bad. I get it. but they're not the ones that are on the field playing. It's the players. And if you're hired as a brand new coach and you're coming in to coach a team that went 1-15 last year, and then they're like, we're bringing you in as our head coach, and you win like 3 games, and they're like, okay, well, I don't think you fit here. I'm like, you suckers, you won 1 game last year, and you're firing me after 1 year? You expect me to turn a team into a Super Bowl team after 1 freaking year? You went 1-15 last year. I mean, I'm like, really? Give me something.
I think the worst example of that is when the Cardinals fired Steve Wilkes after 1 year. You got 1 year and then you canned him. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Because coaches are cop-outs. Like, they are. They get blamed.
Okay. I agree with you in 99.9% of cases, but there will be one case forever that it was absolutely the coach's fault that they were a horrible team.
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer.
Yep.
Well, you're
wrong.
But you're also forgetting about one other guy that I will say forever is a horrible coach, and that's Adam Gase.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but still, like
Adam Gase?
Exactly.
Oh, Adam Gase was terrible, yeah.
It was terrible. But
And you know the funny thing about Adam Gase is when he was the offensive coordinator in Chicago, people were saying, oh, we should get rid of Fox and keep Gase.
Yeah. I know. But that, I mean, you got Urban Meyer. That dude was a joke.
He was a joke.
Like, that is completely on him. And the worst part of all of it is that with 2 wins last year, he ranks 5th all time in Jacksonville history for wins as a coach.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's
So I ran across this story the other day. They were interviewing Jay Cutler, right? And they were like, so Jay, do you know it's cool to be a Jay Cutler guy in Chicago now? Isn't that funny? After all these years, they hated you, and now they love you. He's like, yeah, it's crazy, right? Like they hated me forever. Now I go to Chicago, but it's like, hey, it's Jay. It's weird how that works.
Well, it is weird how it works. It's also weird how there's only been one team in NFL history to never have a 4,000-yard passer. That's the Chicago.
The Chicago Bears, and they've never thrown more than 30.
And one team that's never had 30 more touchdown passes, not Chicago.
yeah,
So,
but you know, Dave, because speaking of that, when you think about it, though, like that is like a typical one, though, to where people go, God, I hate this guy. Like, this guy sucks so bad, I didn't like him. And then the guy's like, I'm officially retiring. And then the fans go, thank you for your time here. I loved what you did here. And I'm like, you hated him when he was here.
I know, yeah.
That's
That's what I'm saying. It's weird how that works. Like, he was the most hated Bear quarterback of all time. And then a couple years later, people realized that he wasn't that bad. Like, it's just weird how that works. I think if he wouldn't have got hurt that year, he went 7-2, and he gets hurt and breaks his thumb against the Chargers. I think we would have had a 4,000-yard passer and a 30-touchdown passer that year if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah. By the way, I gotta throw a little shade at Crispy Bacon since he's listening backstage. The only 2 NFL teams with a winning percentage, a playoff winning percentage below .250 in the last 25 years: the Lions
And the
Cowboys.
Speaking of throwing shade at Crispy, you know how everybody says that Trayvon Diggs or whatever his name is like one of the greatest cornerbacks ever or whatever?
He allowed 1,000 yards last year.
Exactly.
Like,
he's the first one in history, by the way, to have 1,000 yards thrown on him.
Yeah, and somebody like, and when they were showing the passer rating thrown towards him, like he allowed a passer rating of like 101, and then everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's like shut down." I'm like, you know, the reason he had so many interceptions last year is because of like tip passes and happened to be at the right place at the right time.
That's exactly it, too.
Anything down.
But not even that. I mean, I'm gonna reference White Men Can't Jump here for a minute, the movie, but I'm sorry. If you gave me 60 chances in a basketball game to make a bucket, I'll probably hit 8 of them. I'm just saying. Like, you throw at me 100 times, I'm likely to catch 9 of them. I'm just Just throwing that out there.
It's true. That's why I brought that up because I saw that. I'm like, yeah, he's had a real good year. A lot over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, over 1,000 yards, 101 passer rating, ranked like 40th among corners, and I'm like,
he's not as good as everybody says he is.
No,
he just got lucky.
Well, no, it's only because of the interceptions. And like I said, you throw at a guy 100 times, he's probably going to catch 9 of them. Just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how bad we always ragged on Kevin King, and but wasn't Kevin King's fault that he was thrown at 12 times a game because nobody wanted to throw it on Jair's side.
Of course, it was his fault because if he had stopped 5 out of 5, they wouldn't throw at him. But no, they're like, oh, King's on the field. Guess where we're throwing the ball.
Yep.
But I'm saying though, they still would have thrown it to his side because they weren't throwing it to Jair's side. They're like, no, I'm not throwing it on Alexander's side.
Right, but it's the same situation with Diggs. The same exact situation. They look at the field and they're like, all right, my chances are I throw it that way 20 times this game. He might pick off one of them.
Well, this goes all the way back to the Cowboys when they had Deion. And the year before they got Deion, the other guy at corner was an All-Pro. Then Deion gets there and they pick on the other guy. And he's not so good anymore.
Exactly, right? Exactly. But that's what happened. If you remember, though, it was that same situation. Green Bay drafted Kevin King the year before, and nobody wanted to throw to Kevin King's side because Kevin King was there. Then we draft Jair Alexander, and he picks off a couple passes, and they go, never mind, we're going to go to King's side. and the King is probably thinking, God damn it, can you stop throwing the ball on this side? I'm getting tired. Yeah, exactly.
I got to say something about Chicago. I found this funny Messaround. I work with a guy who's a Chicago fan, and he's always telling me, he's like, I hate Chicago fans most of the time, to be honest, because they're always like, oh, why didn't they draft a receiver? Why didn't they draft a receiver? He's like, then I go back and look at the tape, and I'm like, you want to know why we didn't draft a friggin' receiver? It's because you look at our defensive backs, and the guy's 30 yards away from anybody because we can't frickin' cover anybody.
Right. Yeah, it's smart. I mean, I don't know. I like where the new general manager's going. He's trying to get more picks. He's drafting, making the smart picks. You got to start up front. You got to get the O-line right. You got to get the D-line right. So I agree with him spending a lot of picks on that side of the ball with the O-line and D-line. Because if you don't have a line, guess what? You can't throw the ball. You can't run the ball.
It's true.
All right. Well, anyways, we're at that mark now. Sorry, I just realized we were kind of a little bit over that time.
No, it's good.
Dude, this is one of those shows where we can go forever, but
But so Biggie, what any final thoughts?
Keep watching us, keep watching sports. Sports make the world go round most of the time. Helps everybody get out of your daily stresses of all the other shit going on in the world that no one really wants to talk about. But I the one thing I want to leave you with is I think we need to back off the name Karen a little bit. I don't think they're Karens anymore. You know what I think they are?
What's that?
I think they're Ambers, because after seeing that trial with Amber Heard, I'm a bit convinced there's no one worse in the world than that.
Oh, right. Yeah, it should totally be replaced Amber. I agree.
Right. All right.
I love that part of the trial. Speaking of that trial, when Johnny Depp comes out, he gets exposed to wife is shit in the bed or whatever.
Oh, man. There's so many funny parts in that trial. Just like the guy's like, did I read that right? Yes, you did.
Right.
Congratulations, you can read English.
Yeah. Anyways, I love this show. I think this is becoming one of my favorites. I got a lot, like 4 Bros, the Red Tape Files, and Between the Rows, but this is getting up there. It was our first ever one, so.
All right. We're a little older and wiser now.
Yeah, we are a little older and wiser to our time. We definitely want to thank everybody for watching. You can tune in next week for another episode of the Biggie, Skinny, and featuring Messaround show. It's always a great time. on the show. So with that, we hope everybody has a fantastic night, and we will see you guys later.